Hey guys, it looks like I forgot to hit go live. So, what have you missed in the last half an hour whilst I've been tinkering away happily on my own? Well, yeah, so where did I leave you last? Hey! Hey guys, I've actually managed to start the stream. Sorry for that rough starting point, and thanks to Scale for pointing out that I forgot to hit go live as opposed to just starting the broadcast. So, what have I been doing for the last half an hour since I thought you guys were watching? I did wonder why the chat was so quiet. Let me know if volume levels or anything are off. As with Jake, I'm a little bit new to this, so we're not quite there yet. So, what should I show you? So, let's get a view of the actual machine. So, where I left off the other day, I was finishing building the Z assembly. All I had left to do was to tighten up these nuts on the top to attach the motor in. I did have some fun poking the bolts through. I essentially hooked them onto the essentially balanced them on the end of the on the end of my Allen key like that, and then sort of poked them in a bit of a balancing act, and then screwed the nut on from the top. I then was able to just hold the Allen key stationary to hold the nut still, and then torqued up the bolts from above. So after that, I dropped the T-nuts in the groove on either side of the y-axis on that top row, and then I've just bolted it to it. And the last thing that I was just doing before you guys were actually able to join was I realised I'd forgotten to put the T-nuts in these two grooves for the top bolts on the back of this Y motor bracket. So I just popped them in and then poked them down to position whilst looking through the holes, and bolted it on. And now we are here. We have something that vaguely resembles a Milo. So we're going to quickly take a look at the build guide and see what we need to do next. So I have attached I can't see my build guide around my Milo. It's too big. I've attached the Z axis, so I do not have to do any of this stuff to do with the spindle cover. I will be having a cover for my spindle, mostly so I can attach accessories like the cable chain mount, but I have not finished designing it yet because I wanted to see how it all looked bolted together. We're then going to install the spindle holder. So again, I won't have to deal with these nylock washers because I've threaded this plate. So I'll be bolting directly onto my Z plate. Hopefully the threads are strong enough. I know that's always a risk when you're threading into aluminium. So, however, with my design I didn't have space behind it to put nylocks because of where the square spindle bolts on. Right, so instead of faffing with most of these things, I'm not sure if they printed me any hand wheels. No, doesn't look like it. So, no hand wheels for me. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead and bolt the spindle on. Right. So, I chose to use this 2.2 kilowatt square spindle. Now, the original design uses the round one, and you know, it does that so that it's compatible with all of the spindles, because there's a good level of standardization on round spindles. However, on the square ones, they're not as consistent. The flanges can change, and they're also often not well defined as to what exactly they look like when you buy them online. That being said, there has been 2 or 3 2.2 kilowatt size spindle suppliers that people have purchased now that all match the bolting flange pattern here, so it might work. Now, my main reason for going for this, one, it's slightly more powerful than the spindle that Jake had on the machine I borrowed, but more importantly, it is going to bolt directly onto here with no plastic in the way, nothing to add any flex basically. So I'm hoping for the most rigid solution possible. Right, I'm going to go ahead and start trying to bolt onto this then. Now, it's a bit of a juggling act because the spindle is heavy, Milo is heavy, and I only have 2 hands. Right, let's just check. So I think these are M8s. Which hopefully I'll actually have some available of, because these are obviously non-standard and therefore not in the bomb. I was sure I had purchased some. It appears they must still be downstairs, so let me just be right back. Yeah, scale, that's my plan. I wanted to minimise the plastic parts in the kinematic chain. And with this build I essentially have, I've got the aluminium joiner plates on XY and on Z. I don't have any printed fixings for the spindle onto the parts themselves, onto the frame itself. And obviously I've got FMJs, so it should be metal to metal all the way through, which hopefully is going to be a big boost in rigidity. I'm just going to pop downstairs quickly to grab my M8 bolts. So just give me 1 second. Hello again, guys. I have found my bolts. I'm pretty sure 2.2 is the input power. I could be wrong though. Marcus, what do you mean by is the metal 2.2 brace out? Ah, no. Do you mean the Iron Hearts type modification that Jake's been working on? If so, then the answer is not yet. This is my own. I'm using the square spindle, not the round one. And I've designed this plate to accommodate it. As I machined my own, I had the option available. Let's swap back to the GoPro so you guys can actually see something. Right. Again, I'm expecting to have to take this apart, so I'm not putting the Loctite in yet. Now, it's worth knowing I have actually added 2 smaller threaded holes here. Now those holes line up with 2 of the holes on the spindle flange, so that I can bolt straight through those into here, enabling me to bolt a cover on basically, and that cover is going to have attachments for the cable chain and for other bits and bobs. I want to actually have a little ring light to light my workpiece and somewhere to mount my GoPro whilst I'm machining if I want a spindle type view rather than a table view. So yeah, lots of options. Just gonna crank the mic down a little. There we go. Ah, picked the wrong size. So RPM range, this spindle isn't great at running at less than, it's about 10,000 RPM. That's the minimum this can run at with it being an air-cooled spindle. It's much closer to sort of 16,000 is more of an optimum range. I can't remember, if I'm honest, what the top speed was. I can pull up the spec in a bit if you're really interested, but it's very similar to what the 1.5 kilowatt spindle that I had before will do. Oh yeah, so it will go up to 24,000 RPM, 2.2 kilowatts and 7.8 amps peak values, and that's at 220 volts. One of the other benefits of going for this square spindle is that there's a lot less to faff with when it comes to attaching and unattaching your spindle. It is as easy as 4 bolts. Just in case you wanted a close-up view of my concentration face whilst doing up these. Right, so I've obviously not done any tramming whilst attaching that. It has literally just been bolted on where it landed. Now what I am curious to see is how close I can get to the spoil board. So that's it at the bottom of the travel. And let's just see. So in reality, you're never going to be operating without a tool. So the fact that my nut doesn't touch the table, I'm totally happy with. we're going to find out is what the minimum tool length is going to be. So it's going to be about 25 millimeters, which is a little long for some of your smaller tools, but should be okay for the sort of 3mm size and up. And I wouldn't expect to be cutting all the way down to the table very often. I do expect to have a spoil board on here. So once I add a spoil board, it'll be about 15 mil minimum tool length to reach the bottom of my cutting height, which I think is almost perfect actually, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now if we manually crank this all the way to the top, which will be a slow and painful process because I'm not as efficient as a stepper motor. Let's also take it off crotch shot. Accidentally nick the table and it becomes a built-in spoil board. To be fair, at the price of 3 of these extrusions, it really wouldn't be that expensive a use for a spoil board. But the effort of having to remove them and replace them if it got too bad would would drive me insane. So I'm going to opt for not doing that. Right, and that is about my maximum travel. So the good news is, as you can see, we have cleared the saddle here, which is the 120mm clearance that a lot of people refer to whilst talking about FMJ plates. So the stock clearance here is about 60mm. This is double. As you can see, it's approximately 120. It's actually like 119, but as far as we're concerned, that's good enough. That being said, because of how close this actually got when it was lowered, I could be tempted to raise this section up and get the full FMJ benefit out of these, but I'm just going to leave it for now, because if I do that, I think I'm going to want to put, can't even get this in the shot, come this way. If I do decide to raise this and just try and get an extra 10mm of clearance, I'm going to want to put the some inserts into the side of this printed section so that I can bolt into the bottom bearing plate, just to make sure this is all held together nicely through the FMJs. Is my live chat not scrolling? No, it is. Yes, so the spindles, all the spindles that we use on these are AC. You will need a VFD controller, which I've got in a box under the table. Sometimes you can mount them on the back here if you've got space. I'm probably going to be mounting mine in the electronics section on the CASA enclosure that Tin Man's been designing. Right. Okay, so swapping to live. There we go. So as you can see, we have what is looking a lot more like a Milo. Exciting times. Yes, so LDO are making kits. I don't know if you follow them on Twitter, but they did a post yesterday showing a prototype that they've made that's fully built, and it was doing some basic movements and the spindle was turning on, but it's not cutting anything yet. So that is some really exciting space. So do watch that space because it's going to be really cool. Like nothing will help the take up of this project in terms of getting more people using it, more people doing it, than there being a full kit available. I know it is a massive point for lots of people. Sourcing isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, especially if you're not super comfortable buying sort of hardware mechanical parts. Right, where's my mouse gone? What's next? Okay, so like I said, I don't have any of the hand wheels printed, but having now just tried to move these things around, I think I'm going to get those on my print list. It would be a lot easier to tweak this thing whilst it's not running if I had the hand wheels available. And after that, it's time to start the table build. I've got 45 minutes, so I may as well. Right. Phone, GoPro. So, yeah, super happy with how this is looking at the moment. I know it's going to be hella heavy when I try and lift it up now, but well, let's move on to the table build. Well, this is the worst part. There is no good position to pick up the back of Milo from. Well, right. Let's dig out the parts for the table assembly. So I've got the printed face plates. I've got a ballast box, but that is for another time. I have a spare bearing block. Looks like I've gone for the stealth all black Milo version and not included any of the accents yet. Cable stuff. So a lot of these parts in here are accessories for the wiring and electronics that Jake has kindly printed me. But because I've decided I want to have all of mine in the electronics area on the enclosure for easier access, easier to maintain, and just to keep it well away from chips. And I do want to add coolant in the future, so I'm kind of future-proofing it a bit by keeping those things out of where any liquids or anything could get to them. It does make things more annoying if you want to move your mill, because the mill is kind of then connected to the enclosure. So I'm obviously going to have to look at putting in some connectors between the electronics area of the enclosure and the Milo machine section itself, just to make that removal and assembly and disassembly a bit easier. Right, feet, so I'm going to want those. So there will be some accent colours on my build, although I am a little bit tempted at this point, I'm not going to lie, to go all black. Because I've got the aluminium milled plates that are just silver, all the lead screws and the bearings are silver, the spindle is silver whilst it's not covered, and everything else is black. It is so tempting. But anyway. Yeah, okay, so these are a few little bits and bobs for the cable chains. The other stuff back in there, I don't need that right now. Let's separate these into parts that I will need in the future and ones that I don't need for my build. Oh, Jay, I've got spare clips for you. Won't need that. And I want the clips. All of the cable chain clips. That is the top of the ballast box, which I will want in the future. Cool. So that just done a little bit of sorting. Ah, you wanted to see the BFD. That was a question, wasn't it? It was here on the windowsill, not below my feet. So this is the VFD that came with Milo, with my spindle. It's rated to the same 2.2 kilowatts as the spindle. They essentially came as a paired set, which saved me having to pick. You know, it's kind of small, kind of simple. I think what I probably will need though, because I think this one only accepts analog 0 to 10 volts, is I'm going to have to pick up one of those cheap digital PWM to analog converter chips. Right, oh, haven't been paying any attention to the chat. What's been going on? Just went with a BT30 spindle and an integrated servo. Oof, that is fancy. So if you go for BT30 with a tool changing, yeah, it will be if it's BT30, won't it? Presumably you've got pneumatic tool changing on that spindle, Simon. That's really cool. I would love to put one on Milo at some point, but the cost of the spindles alone are no ATC. Interesting. The cost of the ATC spindles are almost as much as the whole mill itself. And so the word yet is exactly what I would use to describe my tooling on tool changing on the spindle. Once Milo's up and running and doing its job and proving that it's doing it really well, then I can probably justify that sort of upgrade. But until then, it just needs to run. It just needs to run reliably and ball screw it first. It's going to be tech, isn't it? It's going to be tech. We all know it's going to be tech that does it. Or Phil, actually. Phil's gone pretty deep in already. Right. Okay, so let's just check, because I did have to drill out some of the holes on the other parts just to increase the clearance holes on a few of them. Yeah, I'm just going to do that on these. All these are going to be a pain in the arse. Looks too big. That's going to be a 6mm. Yeah, I need the 5mm. So I've known it for a while. Yesterday I found out how truly blunt all of my drill bits are now. I've been using them for DIY around the house and things. Consequently, they've been drilling into all sorts of crap, and they have. Hello. Is that better? Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think I might have kicked a power socket. All of my peripheral stuff just went down, so. Do we still have music? Do we still have anything else? No, we don't have any music. Okay. And we're back on the music. We are back on the video. The GoPro is doing the annoying thing where it goes into like old school square video mode. Some unknown reason that I can't seem to fix, but okay. I have no idea where I was. Oh, I love, yeah, drill bits. My drill bits are all super blunt. It's very frustrating. But here we are. Apologies for the mic and the drill sounds. Just going to clean these out because they're a little bit. I really need to get my V0 back running. I've been having end-stop issues on it, and I think I've decided I'm just going to move to the V0.2 design, which will mean that there's no longer a clash between the basically where the homing happens and where the nozzle is at the homing position. I'm looking forward to that because that's become what was just a bit annoying at the start. It's now too annoying for me to bother using the feed. It's been driving me mad. And whilst I'm at it, I'm going to pop the I'm going to pop the Nevermore micro filter that I've got in there, and that will mean that I get some better heat distribution around the thing as well, around the enclosure. What I am waiting for is a full 0.2 upgrade kit, but I've not managed to persuade any suppliers to send me one yet. Although, to be honest, I won't be upgrading the extruder anyway, because I don't like them in the afterburner. I'm a big fan of just using an orbiter or a BMG, making your life easier. Oh, how fun. Right, so we might just end up leaving it here, guys, because I haven't tapped these extrusions yet. No one needs to sit and watch me tap holes for a few hours on end. Right, if I was making a gantry CNC of similar level performance to Milo, what kind of frame would I build? Yeah, don't tap on cap. Made that mistake already, didn't I? What would I use? So have you seen the Rat Rig Stronghold CNC? Now that uses 30 series extrusions. But I think they've essentially built their own C-beam type shapes, but using 30-30 extrusions rather than actual C-beams. It looks like a bit of a beast. That's probably the way I'd go. I think they only sell them in big sizes. They look good though. Right. Because of the tapping requirement, I think I am going to call it a day here. Yes, it does. 3030 easily fits MGN 15. 3030 fits MGN 12 just. That's what all of their Rapid printers are based off of. MGN 12 and 3030 extrusions. Right, let's just pop Milo back on the desk for the finale. Right. Okay. Right, guys. Thank you for joining today. I know I didn't really do that much, and actually I wasn't live for half of it, so you missed it, but I need to take the dog to the groomers to get a haircut, and then I've got some work to do. So have a nice day. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to actually getting this thing up and running soon. Cool. See you guys.